Hello, everybody. My name is Anish Chopra, formerly the Chief Technology Officer for the United States under President Obama and current advisor to UiPath, having a conversation with Pam Wolf, who's joining us from NASA's Shared Services Centers. And we're going to have a bit of a conversation about the history of robotics research and development, the pragmatic implications of them in production over at NASA, and then a deep dive and a conversation about opportunities that might be useful or best practices that could be taken to your organization. I'm grateful for Pam to join, and I will say, having taken my tour of duty in government, NASA is one of the coolest agencies that one could work for, and one of the best agencies to bring in as a case study for what works and what doesn't. In 2011, President Obama announced the National Robotics Initiative at a speech he delivered at Carnegie Mellon University. At the time, it was our view that there was a future path where robotics might result in capabilities or robots that could operate as co-workers to complement and support workers in helping them be more productive in their roles and to expand economic opportunity for everyone. That research and development initiative had resulted in a number of pragmatic, real-world use cases of robotics playing a role on mission-oriented applications and administrative applications. NASA had been at the forefront of all of the above, going all the way back to 2011. And I will say, on a personal note, there had been this goal. We all grew up with science fiction, and we all had our concerns and fears that robots would take over the world, that we would be in some jeopardy, and that this would be a fearful future. We had a more hopeful vision that it would make people feel better about their jobs, make the systems more cost effective, and in general, allow us to put our talents to our highest and best use. I'm grateful to have Pam Wolf join us to share a bit about the journey she's been on in incorporating robotics into her Shared Services Center. So without further ado, Pam, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the group?
Yes, thank you, Anish. I am Pam Wolf. I am the Chief of Enterprise Services at NASA's Shared Services Center. I am responsible for our robotics process automation program. We had started this program late in 2017. The agency had an innovation kickstart contest, and we were fortunate to be one to receive a little monetary award in order to do a proof of concept to really look at the opportunities that the technology afforded. We were quickly able to realize the significance and the opportunities. And in fact, within a matter of months, started to do development internal within our Shared Services Center. To date, we have over 70 automations in place. Those span over all of our functional areas, from finance to human resources, procurement activities, as well as some in our IT department. Anish mentioned, getting employees excited about the opportunities rather than concerned about the skills and replacing them in their positions. And we addressed that right up front by having lunch and learn sessions with our employees and showing them that this was opportunity to get automation of some of those repetitive tasks that they do over and over again, and free them up to do more highly skilled functions, more analysis type work. And that got our workforce excited about the opportunities. And then we actually established a means of employees submitting ideas for automation. With an overwhelming response, we had over 500 ideas submitted within a matter of months. And as soon as you get one or two automations in production and the employees see how quickly you can get these automations functioning and the amount of time that it saves them in these repetitive tasks, they really get excited about the opportunities and really start to think about further applications of this technology in the areas that they work in the Shared Services Center.
Before we dive into some more detail about this, Pam, you said at the outset that this innovation kickstart gave you the proof of concept. I want to peel the onion back on that for a moment for others to understand this. That's a unique concept. Normally, innovation is funded during budget cycles. And I'm sure that would be difficult to get budget cycle approval. So is this a new phenomenon that there was a door you could knock on to see if we could test something, or was that simultaneously introduced brand new and you tapped it for this use case? I'm curious culturally how would otherwise bring a proof of concept to life?
Well, there are several opportunities to do that. There are, investment opportunities within our CIO organization, for one. This was really a kickstart to get the workforce across the agency thinking about innovation and an opportunity to get some funding to look at ways to enhance and to, allow us to reduce some of the costs, particularly in our mission support functions. So this gave us an opportunity to look into funding to do that. Our shared services center operates under a working capital fund. So we look at opportunities to reduce cost and potentially opportunities to reinvest those dollars in technology like RPA.
I'm going to want to dive a little bit deeper into some of those mission services that you support. But let me ask you one more thing you said at the outset, which is something to the order of getting started in months. I am curious, early in my time in government, we came into a modernization project. I think it was over in USCIS, and it was sort of we're going to change the IT, and it was $1 billion 5-year. And I said, out of curiosity, when's the first deliverable? And I think it was 1.5 years or 2 years from the date I asked the question, and they were already in the project. And I was just scratching my head, like, we think in 90-day increments, like what can we deliver in the next 90 days? Can you share a bit about culturally, had there been this sort of prototyping in 90-day philosophy? I mean, NASA is NASA, so I would imagine that's part of the culture anyway, but walk me through the idea of getting some work done in months, whether that was par for the course or that was a bit of an unusual way to bring a new idea to life.
Well, when it comes to automation, it certainly is a much shorter time frame than what we typically experience. We were able to take some individuals within our workforce that were already pretty savvy at creating scripts and macros and doing those type of functions. And they also had the knowledge of the processes within those different lines of business. So we had a couple of people that were really optimistic and took the opportunity to learn the technology, learn the software, and become our first developers using RPA.
Developers from within.
Yes. We did have someone assist us. We went outside and got someone to assist us with our proof of concept and to assist in training our internal resources. And now we're up to 8 internal developers working on automations within the Shared Services Center.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let's dive in a bit on the substance of the work that you do in the Shared Services Center. I thought we may do a couple examples, but let's start with maybe something all of us are thinking about in the pandemic era, which is that we've stopped traveling. But traveling historically had been an area of focus. Could you share a bit about the work you do on travel in NASA, and then maybe a bit about how you introduced RPA into that process?
Certainly, as the Shared Service Center, they're responsible for processing all the travel vouchers to ensure they meet the federal travel regulations, that they have all of the supporting documentation that are required, and then scheduling those vouchers for payment once the travel voucher has been audited and properly approved. So we have been able to automate steps within that process, primarily steps that are functions that occur within the Shared Services Center. But we're looking at what are the opportunities to broaden the use of this technology to have interfaces between our accounting system and the concur travel systems so that you're not duplicating efforts to take information and transition it from one system to another. So we actually have a team right now that's looking at expanding the use of RPA technology for the travel service to be used across the agency to assist when travelers are filling out their travel request, and then to use that information when completing the travel vouchers, and to try to automate that all the way through actually scheduling payments.
So a day in the depressing life of information, I would imagine the data entered in one system doesn't naturally carry over to the next and doesn't naturally carry over to the next. So pre-automation, it was siloed in order to get the travel voucher. I was a kid. I used to watch How a Bill Becomes a Law on ABC Cartoon Network in the morning, right? I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. And so I'm just a piece of data that eventually has to show up on a travel voucher. And how does it go through? Is that roughly speaking what life was like? A lot of redundancy, siloed information capture. Is that right?
Yes, and a lot of information being downloaded and captured in spreadsheets to be analyzed to do random audit sampling. And, the beauty of this technology is you don't have to do random sampling or sample a small subset. You can actually audit the entire enterprise of vouchers and get a much more indicative, indication as to how valid the processing of that document is.
So that 100% audit rate, was that literally over a 5% sampling in the past, or was that more of a metaphor? What was the rough gap in terms of level of audit review?
I would say roughly 15 to 20% review prior to, and then you can increase that up to 100% without increasing any activity of your human workforce.
That's incredible. So that, and without getting to the economic details, but just orders of magnitude, this is an organization that I presume, as a shared services center, you have some rate setting system built on historical performance. Can you just share a bit about the world in which you operate? You charge back to the agency mission heads the cost structure. Walk me through that a little bit.
Yes, so the way that the Shared Services Center works for NASA is we operate under a working capital fund. That means that we get no funding from the agency from any specific mission. We are 100% funded from the services and the transaction fees for the services that we deliver. So we actually go through the process of establishing how many transactions are expected to be provided by service across the agency, and then what the cost to deliver those transactions. And then based on that, we come up with a service rate. Those rates are reviewed every fiscal year during the budgeting process and are set for the subsequent fiscal year. And so from that comes a service delivery and a service level agreement, which is signed off by all of the centers on the level and volume of services that they anticipate using during the course of the year. And that is how they actually set the rates for the services performed by the NSSC.
Yeah, and the reason I was asking you to share that, and I appreciate you doing that, Pam, is that in a way you're incentivized to be more efficient. And in fact, that's part of the culture here, is that theoretically the rates are set on history. It's agreed upon. You're telling me that you've like 4 to 5, maybe 6 times the audit rate, maybe the accuracy goes up as a result, and you've kept the head count the same. You might even actually achieve some savings. So this is a model where you get more with less, as the proverbial dream suggests. Is that a reasonable summary?
Yes, that is a reasonable summary. And as you mentioned, during the year that we faced, with COVID, there's been significantly reduced travel. And so we've been able to use those resources to support other activities, by the NSSC. So, but certainly you would expect the rates to not increase, but you would hope that through automation, you would gain efficiencies to reduce those rates in future budget cycles.
I did want to go through one more case study with you in the time that we have, because it's a problem we all grapple with every day, and that has to do with passwords and security. And yes. So resetting my password is a painful exercise, as I would imagine it is for all employees at NASA and anywhere else. Can you share a bit about how you've thought of automation in the context of passwords, just so that we have a flavor for beyond travel, other areas in which it's been helpful?
Certainly. So I'm also responsible for the agency IT help desk. And we, have on average, 500 to 600,000 calls that the agents answer on a given fiscal year. And roughly 18% of those calls have to do with password resets. And so the goal that we have in mind today is to be able to establish a chat bot that we can use through Microsoft Teams to assist employees in resetting passwords, and therefore they no longer have the need to call the help desk and talk to an agent. So that reduces the volume of transactions by the agents to handle and would significantly reduce the cost once this is put in place. But you do have IT security concerns that have to be addressed and have to be overcome in order to be able to use this type of technology.
Meaning,
so,
you provisioned a Microsoft Teams account for the robot.
Yes.
Got it. So we could invite a robot into this webinar and see if there's a chance for it to help us do something if needed.
If in fact we had pre-programmed that robot to do that, yes. So in this specific instance, you can program it to go look at where the IT security information resides and validate the person's security questions, and then allow them or assist them, providing them a temporary password, let's say, as a means of allowing them into the system to reset their passwords. Since we're all very familiar with using Microsoft Teams today, this would be a good way for employees to self-serve since they're already familiar with the technology, and it should speed the process significantly while also reducing cost.
Pam, this has been helpful to go through these case studies, and in the final minutes that we have today, I'd love to get a flavor for where you're heading. I did report back the R&D, mission that I had, and I understand that the mission agencies and putting the Mars mission and manned space flight again are elsewhere in the enterprise. But I'd be curious, where are you envisioning taking the robotic process automation muscle that you've been exercising of late next? Are there a couple areas that you're eager to tackle?
There are, and the agency itself has a huge push right now for digital transformation, and they've actually broken it down into many different thrusts. There's one looking at process transformation, which obviously that's where RPA falls. We're looking at, potential future uses of machine learning associated with RPA and the ability to use that. That is also a thrust on looking at machine learning and artificial intelligence and the uses that it provides in the science and engineering communities. So, how can it benefit the missions and the technology there, and not just mission support? But then again, where do those lines cross? And where can you use one technology in a mission support area to potentially support the mission itself? So there are a lot of moves afront right now within NASA to address digital transformation and the opportunities that it presents for the agency.
Great. And so you're generally hopeful. The culture of the agency is embracing, in this case, maybe even contributing. You mentioned the 8 developers. Were those developers in-house employees who've expanded their skill set to take this on as an added role, or were they experts that had been brought in from the outside to be the 8 developers?
We actually have a combination. We started out with some internal personnel that we trained to use the technology. And then we started working with universities and actually are bringing in individuals that are fresh out of college as soon as they've graduated. And that has worked really well for us.
Congratulations. Well, Pam, it's been a real pleasure to have you, and I'm grateful for the chance to share a few words. And we look forward to your continued success, and send our level best to everyone at NASA and wish you the very best on your endeavors. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. I am very proud of NASA and its missions, and I know we will continue to soar. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.